Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Stephen Barry. Welcome back to another video vignette from Insulin IQ. We have a special treat today. With me today is Richard Hart. Richard, why don't you tell me what it is that you do in Insulin IQ and what your role is in this program?
Steve, what I do is I own a gym called Elevate Fitness and Rehab, and we are one of the trademark coaching clinics for Insulin IQ. And so we put all of our clients that are insulin resistant on a 90-day program from Insulin IQ, and it has been going awesome.
Well, I can second that. I've been lucky enough to be able to send many of my patients your way, and you've taken great care of them, and they return with rave reviews and very excited to change their lives and to improve their health.
Awesome.
It's kind of very hard for patients to navigate what comes to them through social media and through the news about nutrition.
Right.
Many times I'll tell my patients, or used to tell them, eat right, and then I would walk away. I'm sure they were just as confused as I was when they heard that.
That's right.
to say eat right. And now there can be a lot of confusion around what it is that Insulin IQ does, what its message is, versus many of the ketogenic programs out there. And I would really like to spend some time with you to talk about how Insulin IQ differentiates itself from the run-of-the-mill or the mainstream ketogenic programs that anyone can find out there.
Well, that's a great question, Stephen. So about 8 years ago, I started to dive into this research of Dr. Volek and Dr. Finney, and they're kind of the guys, and I was reading all the research, and back then, you know, keto was pure, man. It was really about insulin control, and it was about metabolic disorders and metabolic health, and helping your cells become more insulin sensitive versus insulin resistant. And then it seems like over the years, the dietary industry has kind of come into this space, and there's a lot of confusion. Exogenous ketones and keto bars and all this stuff, and so I'm afraid for my clients that they're getting confused about what the real doctrine is. And the real doctrine is we have got to control insulin. And so if you're on any kind of ketogenic, so-called, or high-fat, low-carb, and they're not talking about insulin, I'd run.
So the real message here is insulin.
Yeah.
Insulin's the focus of what Insulin IQ is about. It's in the name.
It's in the name. It's on my shirt.
But I agree with you as a clinician. I agree with you. The focus on insulin keeps everything clear. And because I have many patients that come back and say, well, I found this drink called Ketolicious or something. And if I drink that, is that what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
And because of the things that I've learned and that you've also helped me understand, that is getting away from what is centrally important, which is focusing on keeping your insulin low through nutrition.
Right. And there's two things, Stephen. The first thing that we focus on in Insulin IQ is that they understand that this is not a weight loss program. You and Carly talked about that earlier, and that we really truly want to know. I mean, we want to help our clients figure out how to lower their insulin resistance.
Right.
And these dietary programs that bring keto in, they're just taking the keto information or the Insulin IQ information or the true ketogenic message and just put it into some kind of dietary format.
That's already been there.
You've got to track and measure and get on MyFitnessPal. And we really want our clients to be intuitive about their health and really go away and be fearful of the dietary paradigms of the past.
So I don't necessarily, so if I'm going to learn through Insulin IQ, I don't have to measure my portion sizes. I don't have to count calories. I don't have to pay attention to food groupings as much as understanding the basic concepts of insulin and how it's affected by what I eat.
Yeah. I love, the other day we were talking, and there's really two rules at Insulin IQ, and that is, if you're hungry, eat.
Well, let me stop you for the second rule, because so many programs are about calorie restriction and about being hungry.
Well, that's what I was taught at my education. When I got my undergraduate degree, it was calories in, calories out.
I was taught the same thing. And so being hungry was a natural way of losing weight, which is also not a measure of health.
That's right.
So I was taught very much incorrectly about this as well. So in Insulin IQ, it sounds like you're really trying to re-educate.
Right. And we love ketones. Don't get me wrong. We love when our body produces ketones because that means we're burning fat, right? And that's ultimately what a ketogenic diet is that we're producing ketones as an energy source to fuel our body, right? But beyond that, this other stuff, really be careful of because it's really about insulin.
So I love that first rule that if you're hungry, eat. I love that. That is so different than anything I've ever taught as a physician or in any program I've looked into, because being hungry was just, well, you know, you're going to be hungry for a while. I'm sorry.
I had a client the other day call me and say, hey, Rich, I'm just, my wife made this amazing apple pie. Can I have some? I'm like, I don't care what the hell you eat, man. Just know what it's doing to insulin.
Right. You be responsible for yourself.
You be responsible for yourself, and just know what it's doing to insulin. And I would advise you not to eat the apple pie.
So the first rule is if you're hungry, eat. That's easy enough to understand, and that sounds refreshing, actually. Tell me what the second rule is.
The second rule is if you're not hungry, don't eat. Yeah, it's real simple. As you start to implement the IQ, the Insulin IQ program, you're going to be more satiated because your body's simply burning energy from a fuel source that you have plenty of in your body already. We have hundreds of thousands of calories of fat in our body just ready to be turned into ketones. But we've only got maybe 500, 600, 700 calories of carbs, and so we've got to keep on fueling our body with those carbs. But when we become fat adapted, we become satiated, and we're simply not as hungry anymore. And we can go long periods of time without eating and be completely healthy.
And not hungry.
And not be hungry.
So if I understand this right, so my job then is to understand which foods affect my insulin.
That's right.
And if I'm hungry, eat them. And if I want to step outside that, I need to be responsible. And part of the program is, if you want to have grandma's apple pie, have a piece of grandma's apple pie, but understand that you're going to have a big insulin spike, and you get the consequences of that decision.
And some of my clients that are really metabolically sick, that is going to be devastating to them.
Right.
Yeah. A really cool thing, Steve, that we teach at Insulin IQ is that when I've got clients that have lost, a ton of weight, even though we don't talk about weight, they go outside and people recognize this and they see it. And they say, man, how much weight have you lost? And my clients that I train say, I don't know how much weight I've lost, but what I have done is turn my insulin-resistant cells to become more insulin sensitive.
That's
and they're
awesome.
like, what does that mean? I mean, what are you talking about?
It's a very different message.
Yeah, they can explain now the diseases that come with insulin resistance. And now, great, I'm glad they feel better, but ultimately we want to help them not get diabetes, not get PCOS, not get cancers, not get Alzheimer's, dementia, and fatty liver disease. These are the things we're really concerned about.
So part of Insulin IQ's message is even a message of prevention.
Yeah.
That as you understand insulin and how it works, you can actually prevent these diseases, and some of them you can reduce their effects if you have it. If
you're looking at any kind of program, and especially a ketogenic program, and they're talking about weight loss, I would run.
Yeah, that's such a difficult thing for my patients to get past. And one of the hard things that I don't think they see is that they're expecting to always be losing weight in order to have some idea that they're being successful.
Right.
And there's no measure of how you're feeling or other measures of what health really is. And if they plateau, which is a very common thing when you're returning to health or getting healthy, they'll quit because they feel so discouraged, because their only measure of whether they're being healthy or not is what the scale is telling them every day. And
that's what's so great about coming in and joining the Insulin IQ program, is that we get to take you through a series of in-body measurements that's really going to show us whether you're insulin resistant or not. And through some blood work, we'll be able to tell you how you're progressing, whether your visceral fat's dropping, whether you're getting more lean muscle mass, you're more hydrated. Those are effects of health, not weight loss.
So that's a very different way of looking at health. If you were to pull somebody off the street and say, what do you think is the most important thing about being healthy? My guess is a majority of them would say how much you weigh.
Well, we know that hasn't gone us very far. I mean, we're more morbidly obese, more metabolically sick than we've ever been in the history of this world. So it's time for a new message, my brother.
Well, I am a big believer in the message that Insulin IQ teaches, so much so that I'm dedicating a big part of my career into helping people understand that health is a function of insulin control, and that all these old paradigms need to be unlearned because they get in the way of being healthy.
Awesome.
Rich, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Appreciate it, brother.